Well, for more on this, I'm now joined by the Deputy Conservative Leader Lisa Raitt. Deputy Conservative Leader Lisa Raitt, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks, Angie.
Talk to me more about this letter and why you thought it was necessary to send this letter to CSIS and ask for an investigation.
Well, what we ended up doing is exactly what was anticipated when the Minister of Democratic Institutions set up a specific task force in dealing with security and intelligence threats to electoral processes. This happened in February of this year. CSIS was tagged as one of the 4 agencies that would be there to investigate any concerns about interference with elections. And when neither the Prime Minister nor the Foreign Affairs Minister, the Global Affairs Minister, indicated the seriousness of the commentary that Mr. McCallum was passing on to his old contacts within foreign affairs in China, we decided we had to write the letter to flag it for CSIS because this is serious for us.
What do you anticipate the outcome could potentially be in all of this if CSIS does go ahead and conduct an investigation? Because, as you say, looking at the letter here that you did send to them, it's sort of, you're raising a number of concerns with regards to election interference. You do refer to concerns of foreign-influenced activities, et cetera, which does come under CSIS's mandate. If they do go ahead with something, I mean, on the one hand, we probably won't necessarily know. It's not something that's going to be made public. But is there a concern that this action could hinder relations between Canada and China?
I think our focus right now is on the impact that it could have on our election, and that's the process that we have right now. And I do believe that something could come of this investigation and that it would be reported to the Canadian public because we have set up this specialty group of bureaucrats within Ottawa who get the ability to flag a problem if they see it during the election. So Minister McCallum, the former minister, warns his former colleagues that a Liberal government would be more friendly to them than a Conservative one would. And that comes on the heels of the report that CTV had last night talking about the fact that senior deputy ministers have already been warned by CSIS that they have concerns about whether or not there would be an attempted influence in our own communities here in Canada of Chinese descent. So putting those two together, I can see no reason why CSIS wouldn't go forward. And it really heightens my concern about whether or not the Prime Minister and the Global Affairs Minister and the Public Safety Minister are taking this seriously.
We know that Foreign Affairs Minister Chrystia Freeland did say clearly yesterday that this does not reflect on how the government feels with regards to this, denouncing what his comments were. He is no longer, as you mentioned, their former minister. He's no longer the ambassador to China. Is now a private citizen, considered to be a private citizen, although he did carry those files earlier. Do you think his comments would carry that much weight to have that much influence on the election?
100%. He specifically said in this newspaper, the South China Morning Post, which is the newspaper of record in Hong Kong, he specifically said that he passed on information about the friendliness of the Liberals to the Chinese in his capacity as having these former contacts through his ministry. And the issue with respect to the Global Affairs Minister, saying it's inappropriate is fine. I say it's inappropriate as well. But what this government has lacked to do is to flag this as an issue for RCMP, for the Special Task Force, for CSIS, for anyone. They actually stopped moving forward on what I view as a serious possibility of interference in our democratic institution with respect to Elections Canada. And it has to be followed up. So we've put our hand up to say, we've got a great concern, and she should have done the same.
Before I let you go, Minister Raitt, what do you expect now from the government? You've put this forward. You've asked for the request for an investigation by CSIS. You've clearly said there hasn't been enough of a response. So what do you want to hear from the government now?
We want to hear the fact that if there is anything turned up, I assume that there will be an investigation. I believe that there is ample information that has been disclosed already, that at the very least there should be an interview of the former minister with respect to whatever conversations he had with Chinese foreign affairs officials in the past 2 weeks. I expect that if this does point up to a possibility of interference in our election through the process that the government has already set up, that political parties, all of us, will be informed and debriefed on whether or not there's a problem. This is how the system is supposed to work. Unfortunately, this Liberal government chose to ignore it and try to shrug off this as just comments from Minister McCallum. This is a very serious matter, and we're taking it in a serious way.
Okay, well, we'll continue to follow this very, very closely. We appreciate your time, Deputy Conservative Leader Lisa Raitt. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Angie.
You're welcome.